Put all this over here. All right, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, I am having a seminar that's going to be on the 14th and the 15th of January. Make sure everybody can hear me okay. All right, it's going to be on the 14th and 15th of January. It's going to be in Houston, Texas. I got a Houston, Texas seminar that I'm holding, and we're going to be going over a lot of different things. It's a 2-day event. It's in Houston, Texas, on the 13th and 14th of January. It is $499. There's going to be a pre-registration of $399 if you pre-register. Seating is limited. We're expecting a huge turnout for this event in Houston, Texas. And the subjects and topics that are, there's a link in the description also for you to register this video. But what I'm going to be going over is I'm going to be going over a lot of processes, things I'm going to talk about a little bit here right now. But it's primarily the focus is going to be on privatization. It is my contention. I've been studying, I've been in this space for a long time, and I've been studying a lot of this information, and I've just come to the conclusion. I studied history, I studied gurus, so-called constitutional experts, people who have steadily said that it's the government's fault. I said 13th and 14th of January next year, 13th and 14th of January. So it's not in February, it's not in December, it's January of next year, Houston, Texas. We're going to be having an event, and it's going to be, we're going to be talking about trust. We're going to be talking about SBC, obviously, but a lot more. I'm going to get into a lot more techniques on how you can move in the private, how you can, start to get your life in such a way where you can be in the world but not of it. You know, it's like I was saying, it's my contention. I've been studying this space for a very long time, and it's just that I think it's public versus private is the issue that a lot of people don't seem to understand. I'm talking to people all the time. I'm talking to these, I was just listening to this feminist have a debate with someone, and she went at him about his Christian beliefs because he was a Christian, and, they were talking about gender identity. I might stream it. I don't know. That's a good idea. We might stream some of it. I'm just looking at this real quick. Y'all getting this okay? It looked like everything is fine. Yeah, it looks fine. Okay, cool. I'm getting all type of messages and stuff. But we're going to be talking a lot about public and private is going to be the main thing, because I was just watching this feminist have a debate with someone about gender identity. And, he was a Christian man, and basically, he was saying that he's a Christian and he believes there's only two genders. And he just told a lady, you just can't throw Christianity out the door and religion out the door. And she said, yes, I can. Now, it is my contention that a lot of these people are atheists. A lot of, communists and a lot of people on the left are atheists. And you're going to be finding that out more and more. But that's not the point. The point is, I hate to say it, that she was right. She was absolutely correct in telling him that she could throw his religion. She said that you are a public servant and you have taxpayers' money and you cannot play God, and it is not your business to decide on how public money should be spent. Now, there's a separation of church and state, and a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people get into these debates in the public, these moral debates and things of that nature, when I don't know. I think morality, of course, has a place in the public, but people have to understand that your beliefs, your religious beliefs don't. There's a separation of church and state. Your religious belief is a private matter. It is not a public matter. There's only a restraint on the public to prevent them from encroaching on that belief, but you cannot utilize the public to proselytize your beliefs over other beliefs. Equality under the law is mandatory, and they are exploiting this to its fullest extent, and they're correct in doing so. And I think that a lot of people who don't understand public versus private, they will start having issues or just feel like the country is going to in the toilet or something like that, when the real issue and the real problem is people do not understand public versus private. They don't understand the separation and what rights you have in the public versus what rights you have in the private. And I'm going to take a little time now. I want people to look at this chart. I want you to look at this chart. And I want you to study this. This right here is very, very important for you to understand if you're going to understand public versus private. This little chart right here. We can skip past the natural law, the positive law, substantive law, procedural law, and we can get just straight into how substantive law breaks down into public law versus private law. When I say public versus private, I'm talking about the law. What laws are in the public and what laws govern the private? This is key in understanding any process. It's key in understanding status correction. It's key in understanding the Constitution and its application. It's key in understanding the duties of government. It's key in understanding a lot of the arguments that you see in the public, as far as like the example I just gave about transgenders and do they have rights? Do gays have rights? These are all questions that you need to, in order for you to understand, in order so there won't be a lot of controversy in the public, for you to understand this difference between public and private. Now, in looking at this chart, under public law, you say you have constitutional law, criminal law, tax law, administrative law, public international law. And on the private side, you have contract law, property law, family law, status law, tort law, private international law. These are all on the private side. Now, it's important for you to understand that constitutional law is on the public side. This is so important because everybody keeps talking about I have constitutional rights. And when you say that, that is evidence that you are a U.S. citizen and you are wholly in the public. You don't even understand what your proper status is. If you are not an employee of the federal government or state or local governments, you are in the private. Public means government. It is a synonym for government. Start looking at it that way. Every time you see that word public, the first thing that should flash in your mind is the government. Public school, who pays for it? The government. Okay, public health care, who pays for it? The government. Public assistance, who pays for it? The government. Okay, anytime you see that word public, you need to be thinking government. The government. The government has a domain. Their domain and the power that they can utilize in that domain is carved out in the Constitution. The Constitution is a document that forms government and it restrains government. The restraints are in the form of, the right of the people to be safe in their homes against unreasonable search and seizure. That's a directive at the government. You can't come into anybody's home with good probable cause. They have to have what is called a compelling public interest. And the U.S. Supreme Court applies what is called a compelling public interest test to make a determination whether or not the government could lawfully go into somebody's home, whether a public official could go into the private. All right. You have to demonstrate that in some kind of way you have harmed or threatening harm to the public. In order for them to come into the private, they got to get an affidavit together and take it before a judge and get what's called a warrant, and then come and then infringe into the private. All right, that's important for people to understand. You know, the Equal Protection Clause under the Constitution. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I want people to understand about socialism and communism and how this nefarious political ideology is steadily encroaching in the United States of America, and it is threatening the freedoms that we are so used to in this country. I don't know how people feel about the United States of America. I was born here. This is my country. I wasn't born in Africa. I wasn't born in Asia. I wasn't born in Egypt. I wasn't born in Saudi Arabia. I wasn't born in France, England, Canada, Australia, Antarctica, out in the wood. I wasn't born in any of those places. I was born in the United States of America. So this is my country, and I love my country, and I have some concerns about where this country is headed. And a lot of it is due to the fact of the ignorance of the citizenry of this country. Now, when you people have to understand, like, you have people coming in there and say, well, you know, I think the tax law was not properly ratified, Title 26, or, you know, they say they didn't have a quorum in effect for this or that, you know, and you'll hear people say all of these things. And I used to, you know, be like that too. I'm like, yeah, man, you know, they didn't have the right stuff to do this. They're doing something illegal and unlawful, you know, they can't do this, until I started really understanding public and private. And I read a book, and I'm gonna show you this book real quick. And this is SPC University, and we have American jurisprudence. And this is administrative law. Now, I would urge people, if they want to understand government and government agencies, I'm going to urge you to study administrative law. And I'm going to read some of this to you and see if y'all can kind of grasp it. I want you to put in your mind public and private, these principles that the public is the government. So everything that relates to the government are the administrative agencies, which are the executive branch, Homeland Security, the FBI, the Secret Service, the IRS. All these agencies, okay, they are in the public. They are called administrative agencies, and they are under what is called administrative law. Administrative law, sometimes it is called the fourth branch of government, because these agencies have become so big and so powerful that now they're almost like their own branch of government, but they're not a branch of government. I understand that. Now, the topic is a broad view of administrative law as it impacts all federal and state agencies. It covers the general aspects and principles of the law relating to the jurisdiction, powers, functions, and procedures of federal, state, and local governmental bodies, other than the courts and legislatures. It considers these matters with regard to the investigatory, legislative, rulemaking, determinative, and adjudicatory functions of these bodies and agencies. Now, I want you to pay attention that these agencies make adjudications on matters, but it has to be within the purview of their delegated authority, okay? And this is what I'm going to get. This is why I'm doing this, because I want people to get an understanding of the jurisdiction of these people. It includes a basic treatment of the Federal Administrative Procedures Act and the 1961 and 1981 versions of the Model State Administrative Procedure Act. Now, I want you to understand that the Administrative Procedures Act is something that is promulgated by the legislature of Congress, who these people are beholden to. Okay, all these agencies who receive a delegation of authority. It doesn't matter if they're Article 2 or Article 3. It doesn't matter if it's a judge. It could be an Article 3 judge. It could be the president, hell, whoever. If they can receive a delegation of powers from the legislative branch of government. It's called the Delegation of Powers Doctrine. However, they cannot delegate their lawmaking power to the other branches of government because of separation of powers. So it is unlawful for one branch of government to delegate the powers that are given to them by the Constitution to another branch of government. But what they do is they give them the ability to go out, an agency to go out and do things for them. Like I'll give you an example. Like the legislature will make a law on drugs, but the senators up there on Capitol Hill, they don't know nothing about drugs. They're not on the street. They don't know anything about how drugs are being sold or anything like that. But the DEA does. So what they will do is they will create a statute and then delegate the power to enforce that statute to the DEA. So when you are brought in a courtroom, you're not being brought in an Article 3 court. You're brought in an Article 1 legislative court, because the legislature is the one that created the statute saying that you cannot sell drugs. All right, you're not going into a constitutional court. When you go in there and you start talking about the Constitution, the reason that they tell you that if you bring up the Constitution, I'm gonna give you a contempt charge, is because you are in there under a contract, which is on the private side. Contract law, the government has the ability to contract with you privately, okay? Contract makes the law. Contract is above the Constitution, all right? It's above the Constitution. All private individuals interact with each other through the use of contracts. This is why in the seminar in Houston, Texas, we're going to be going over that a lot, okay, on contract laws and how trust or private trusts are operated utilizing contracts. This is going to be very, very important for you to understand so you can understand how to function in the private. See, learning how to be private is a skill. Just like anything else, is nothing that you're going to do automatically overnight. It is something that takes a little time, effort, and patience to learn how to do, okay? And you start by understanding what the laws are. So let me get into some of this on this administrative law. Let me go down here. And let's go into this first chapter. The general definition of administrative law. The term administrative law, while well recognized by judicial and other authorities, has no authoritative definition. Administrative law is concerned with the legal problems arising out of the existence of agencies which combine in a single entity legislative, executive, and judicial powers which were traditionally kept separate. Now, I want people to understand something. Do you see how traditionally, they still are kept separate? Okay, you got to watch these people and the language that they're using. The separation of powers is still one of the principles of the Constitution. So how is it that one agency is exercising legislative, executive, and judicial powers under one house? Well, these are just what it says, powers. These are not constitutional powers. They're delegated powers. Okay, it's been delegated by the legislature. The legislature, they have their own court. That's under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9, where it says that Congress has the ability to constitute tribunals that are inferior to the Supreme Court. So you're looking at, these are agencies. You're going into an agency court. Now, this is very important for people to understand because 99% of the courtrooms, federal and state, in this country are administrative agency courts. These are not constitutional courts. But you need to be able to explain this and be able to diagram this and so people can understand it. If you want to get any effect, it's not hard to do. Once you understand public and private, it is not hard to do to understand this. Let's keep going. It says, generally speaking, administrative law deals with officers and agencies exercising delegated powers and not with the exercise of constitutional powers of the executive. I just said that. Okay, these agencies, they are under the executive branch of government. They are not under Article 1 or Article 3. However, they are not exercising constitutional powers. Only the executive branch can do that, which is the president. The president is the holder of executive powers under Article 2. But he can delegate those powers, much like how a sheriff is the only executive authority, but he delegates his power to other individuals. He deputizes them. So you have deputy sheriffs. The same thing with the clerk of court. There's one clerk of court, but she can delegate her powers to other individuals and deputize them. That's why they get sworn in. They have to swear in, and they have to agree to abide by all the rules that are set out by the head clerk. Same thing with the sheriff, same thing with the chief of police, same thing with any entity. Okay, there's that one entity that is given the power. We do that with private trusts. In a private trust, there's one trustee that is appointed, and then he appoints the other trustees. Okay? Understand that this is called Delegation of Powers Doctrine. I'm hoping people are getting it. All right? It goes on. This article attempts to show what the courts have done in situations frequently presented in the establishment and working out of the administrative process, apart from peculiarities of statutes and policies affecting particular agencies. Whether such statements or a limited or contrary rule apply in regard to particular agencies can ultimately be determined only by a study of such statutes and the cases applying to them. And that's true. You got to study case law. So let's go down here and read this. Concerning private and public rights. Look at this. Now, this is an American jurisprudence, which is a legal encyclopedia. So let's read this real quick. It says, sometimes the language of private rights is used in the administrative context. People got to understand that. Yes, it's used in the administrative context because the government came down to the level of a private citizen when they started utilizing Federal Reserve notes. They took it from a constitutional jurisdiction into a territorial jurisdiction under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. That is why the Federal Reserve can lawfully operate. And that's why you need to have a membership card to go into any of their jurisdictions. They want you to be a U.S. citizen, which means you're a member of the legislative branch of government, Congress, because Congress is the one that issues the Social Security number. They want you to have a membership card to demonstrate that you have contracted with them that allows you to use the benefits and privileges that are dispensed by the Article 1 of the legislature. This is what you call your straw man. And all of this stuff that we keep talking about, all right? This is what's necessary. So private, when they use the word private rights, it's not the same thing as what you're using it in. They're using it in the sense that they're operating outside of the Constitution. Lawfully, I might add. Lawfully. Please don't start saying that they are unlawfully operating outside the Constitution, because you would be incorrect. You would be incorrect. It says, however, this language may simply signify a policy relevant to administrative law encompassing both public and private rights. Because administrative agencies serve in part to effectuate the constitutional obligation of the executive branch to see that the laws are faithfully executed, the public interest is an added dimension in every administrative proceeding. All right, so right there, they're going to go on and tell you also exactly what they are, okay? It says, in addition, the public rights doctrine, I want you to write that down. What is a public rights doctrine? Impacts administrative agencies. In certain areas, the principle applies that particular administrative agencies are created to protect the public interest and not to vindicate private rights. I actually put this in an affidavit to the feds. I say, hey, y'all are an administrative agency. Y'all are here to protect the public interest and not to vindicate private rights. This is very important for you to understand. This is another reason why they start talking about the Constitution. They'll say you need to shut the hell up. All right, you are in an administrative court, and we're here for the public interest, which is the government's interest, and not yours. All right, you're in the wrong venue. Sometimes the distinction is made between legal rights and duties enforced through the administrative process and those left to enforcement on private initiative through the legal system. In essence, the public rights doctrine reflects simply a pragmatic understanding that when Congress selects a quasi-judicial or administrative method of resolving matters that could be conclusively determined by the executive and legislative branches, the danger of encroaching on the judicial powers is less. All right, now, what do they mean by that? All right, okay, this is what they call the political question doctrine. Okay, they saying that, look, if we have a matter that is solely within our purview because of separation of powers, all right, the court can't get involved in it. Now, when I say court, I'm talking about in the sense of the constitutional court, the Supreme Court of the United States of America. They can't get involved in it because of separation of powers. I'm here to tell you that the number one job of the Supreme Court justices is to defend the private rights of the citizens of this country, which there are not many citizens who are operating privately right now. Okay? Now, you also have to understand that we got two different types of courts. We got a U.S. Supreme Court, and then we got the Supreme Court of the United States of America. You got to understand that when they are operating as the U.S. Supreme Court, they're operating as an appellate capacity to the Article 1, and all they're going to do is review the procedural aspects of the case because the procedures are put in place to ensure that there aren't any constitutional violations. It goes on, it says, in essence, the public rights doctrine simply reflects a pragmatic understanding that when Congress selects a quasi-judicial or administrative method of resolving matters that could be conclusively determined by the executive and legislative branches, the danger of encroaching on the judicial power is less than when private rights, which are normally within the purview of the judiciary, see that? Private rights are normally where? In the purview of the judiciary. I'm not making this up. Are regulated as an initial matter to administrative adjudication. Where private common law rights are at stake, the court's examination of the congressional attempt to control the manner in which those rights are adjudicated will be searching. However, Congress may create a private right that is so closely integrated with a public regulatory scheme as to be a matter for agency resolution, which with limited involvement by the federal judiciary. This is where the contract aspect of these things come in. All right, contract law is private. Okay, so they can pull you into a contract, and the terms of those contracts will exclude the judiciary. This is why it's so tough for y'all to get into the Supreme Court and get you a case heard before the Supreme Court. You don't have the proper status to go below. They tell all the citizens in Washington, D.C. that they don't even have a right to go into an Article III court because they're born right there, right under Congress. All right, in Washington, D.C., you're born into a territorial jurisdiction. It's essentially you like the property of government. Now, I have a problem with this, and the problem I have with it is that these are your public servants, all right? These are not, in the United States of America, we don't have kings and queens, all right? These are public servants. So we got to get back to a position where we can honorably remind them of what their duties are to private citizens of this country. This is going to go a long way and stopping this encroachment of communism that is currently affecting this country, all right? You are in danger of losing your country to communism, all right? That's what all of these LGBTQ people want. That's what all these feminists want, all right? That's what all of these victim mentality people want. The reason that they want this is because if the public, communism is the elimination of private property. So it means total control of government. Once total control of government occurs, now they can control every aspect of your life. This is when you look at Orson Welles' 1984, what they're talking about, that they're even gonna control your speech and your thoughts. They're trying to get to the point where they can monitor your thoughts and give you a charge because you was thinking the wrong thing. Is this the kind of world that you want? Is this the kind of world you want your children to grow up in and think that is normal? This is another thing that you have to be understanding. See, all these things right now, we understand. But when they make the necessary changes and all the old people die out, your children are going to grow up in this type of environment and they're going to think it's normal because they're never going to see anything different. It's akin to like a child today when they grow up with a cell phone. You know, you start telling them about a time we didn't have cell phones, they can imagine that, or a time we didn't have social media, or a time we didn't have a computer or the internet or anything like that. That's hard for them to fathom. They've grown up in this environment, and that's what's going to happen. They understand this, and that's what's going to happen to your future generations. They're going to grow up in an environment where men being emasculated is normal, that men acting like women and women acting like men is normal. Is that the kind of future that you want? Now, it is my contention that this will never last because nature has a way of righting itself because nature favors balancement. So So this right here, these people don't believe in natural laws. I'm in an argument on Facebook, and all of these feminists are coming on there telling me that natural laws change. This has to be the most ridiculous, asinine, stupid assertion that I've ever heard of in my entire life. It's like saying gravity changes. These people are crazy. You got to have some conversations with these people. They are here on a mission, okay, to destroy private property based off the fact that they feel like they're victims. They do not believe in God. They don't believe in any type of spirituality like that. They are atheists. You can believe what you want. So they don't believe. They believe there is victims, and there are people there are oppressors and victims. They don't think that they are responsible. They don't take any accountability for anything. And this is being taught in your schools and so forth. No accountability for nothing. It's always somebody else's fault. And things won't change until laws are put in place to quell the oppressor. And that could be anybody who's, oh, you're bullying me because of my gender. You know, now they're making, I think they're like 72 different gender, they're talking about gender identity. You know, whatever. I didn't understand what the hell they was talking about. My question to you, all you people out there talking about gender identity, can you make children with any other gender besides a male and a female? Gender is a universal law. This is blasphemy. And a lot of you are sitting out there and letting it slide. I mean, it's amazing how weak men and women have gotten that they're allowing all this shit to go on. It's incredible to me. These people only make up a very small percentage of the population, and you letting them dominate, all of you dominate your thoughts and everything, got you thinking, oh, well, this is the new normal. No, it's not the new normal. It's the new, you people are punked out. Now, why are you in here talking about cracking the code? Cracking the code, do you understand? What did you do out of cracking the code? This dude right here, TV Dash King. Did you even understand cracking the code? What did you do? What did you think cracking the code is about? I want to ask the dude, Ty Dash King. Tell me in the comment section, what was cracking the code 3rd edition about? What was it about? What type of administrative process was utilized in cracking the code? You said you utilized the process in cracking the code. What was cracking the code 3rd edition about? I want to see, do you understand what you were doing? That's all. I'm not trying to call you out because y'all put stuff in the chat. If I see it, I'm gonna see, do you know what you're talking about? Because I know cracking the code 3rd edition inside and out. So what is the 3rd edition? What is it talking about? What process did you use? And tell us what process you used. No, it's not talking about correcting status. That's not what cracking the code 3rd edition is about. You just saw some UCC ones in there and all. Correcting status in what way? Because you don't even see the word correcting status out. What is the process utilized in there that if they violate, what is it that they violate they're going to get charged with? What is the whole theme of cracking the code 3rd edition? No, that's not. See, I can tell you ain't read it. You ain't use that process in 3rd edition. You didn't use the process in 3rd. I'm gonna give you one more chance. I'm gonna give you one more chance. See, the reason I'm doing this, I run across people all the time. It's very rare that you meet somebody who's actually studied, because most of this stuff takes about 3 years to become functionally literate in it. It ain't for a person to just pick it up and then tomorrow start using processes. So I'm gonna give you one more chance. What is, he said, protecting yourself from people in the public. Protection by filing. Filing what? Perfection by filing? Nah, that ain't what it is. Cracking the code 3rd edition is by common law copyrighting a name. All right, the whole thing was about the name. The name is your property, and you charging people $500,000 a pop for the use of that name. See, I can already see you don't know. It has UCC ones and all that in there, but you are filing all that. But the process is about the name. That's when everybody was utilizing the name, saying this is my common law copyrighted property. I don't give you permission to use this property. It's $500,000 for use of this property. And then you start billing people for the use of that name. That's what the whole thing is about, okay? Now, when you get into some of the others, like Redemption Manual, they kind of shift a little bit. But what's beautiful about Cracking the Code, the 3rd edition, is it's got a hellified, it teaches you how to lay the foundation for putting a lien on individuals. And it is an effective thing, but you don't know, it don't tell you how to do the process though. It just shows you how to bill people, how to put an affidavit together, affidavit of mailing and all that, but it don't really show you all the process. So I don't understand how you could say that you utilize the process in Cracking the Code 3rd edition, because it doesn't tell you how to utilize it don't tell you nothing about doing the notices, the proper notices and everything that you have to put a lien on people. So whatever process used in Cracking the Code 3rd edition and it didn't work for you, it shouldn't have worked for you because you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know what you're doing. Who else can I catch out there on something? Talking about they did something. Yusef, I heard you say if you haven't completed the SBC process, at least send in some notices to government so you can tell us which ones the very least. Yeah, I mean, well, how you gonna send in a notice if you don't know the difference between public and private? You give them a notice about what? You know, like for instance, they got something called an affidavit of tax exempt status, or you got an affidavit of non-corporate existence. Those are basically like the same thing. They're the same thing. They're talking about the same thing. Tax exempt status means I'm private because what? Tax laws on what side is on what side? Tax laws on what side? Tax laws on the public side. So if you just understood this, if you're gonna like, you know what, I'm not a U.S. citizen, I understand that a U.S. citizen is like, it's like a membership card to Congress's party, okay, over here where they didn't set up this jurisdiction, okay, because there ain't no money. There's not any money, so they had to give everybody monopoly money. But in order to do that, without violating the Constitution, they had to take it inside the territories where they could exercise plenary power, and then they had to go to the private citizens in the country and offer them a contract that would allow them to come in to that jurisdiction. Nothing that they done in that particular process is forcing anybody to do anything, and nothing in that process that they did is unconstitutional. It is predicated off the fact that the people have not been taught proper civics, certain fundamental principles, and they don't understand it. They think that the Constitution is some all-encompassing document that has equal power in the private as it does in the public. The private doesn't have any law. When they say that you don't have to live under any law, that is absolutely correct. You do not have to live under any law. You can do anything you want as long as you don't violate anybody else in their property or infringe or encroach on them in any kind of way. You could do whatever you want, but that involves you can't violate public laws, you can't violate somebody else's private rights or anything like that. If you void all of that, you could do what you want to do. That is how you learn to operate in the private. Okay, so taxes, I don't have to pay taxes if I don't incur some sort of public obligation to do so. That's why they tell you all the time you have tax evasion and tax avoidance. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is legal. You can avoid paying taxes legally, and a lot of people do. But they come under all kind of scrutiny from their rivals in the political arena, like with Donald Trump, and made all of y'all look foolish when they're talking about, well, Donald Trump didn't pay taxes. Damn right he didn't pay taxes. The biggest tax shelter on planet Earth is real estate. What the fuck is wrong with you? Stop being stupid. You should be insulted when they put something like that on the media. They are saying all of y'all are idiots because we're going to make this man look guilty and you dumb motherfuckers, y'all don't even know. You should be insulted when they do something like that. Like, man, this is some dumb shit. Everybody up there on Capitol Hill got a tax shelter and probably in real estate in some capacity. And they sit there and say, well, you know, Donald, we want to see your tax records. He showed him the taxes. It went quiet. Nobody else said shit else. None of you motherfuckers said nothing else. It went quiet. You hear a pin drop. He said, well, you know, he's a billionaire. He only pays $700 in taxes because he's smart. But y'all swear he dumb. Y'all swear he dumb. He said, I had sheriff deputies trespassing on my property, attempting to gather evidence of illegal cannabis cultivation. I used the administrative process to put my county council and sheriff on notice. You can do that. I mean, the thing about it is that they got a warrant. You know, there are public laws against. Now, that goes into your status, too, whether or not you're a U.S. citizen, okay, because you're a member of their club. And if you're a member of their club, then, you know, they can say, hey, you can't be growing cannabis. It's real interesting. I'm going to show you this right quick on that, what you're just talking about. I'm going to go over here into... I wonder, let me see if I got this in here. Yep, there it is right here. This is William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse. Now they give a good explanation about cannabis. Because you know the feds, cannabis is still illegal in the feds. All right, so let me show y'all something real quick. Right here. All right, this is in Behold a Pale Horse. This is William Cooper, and they explaining to you about your status and how the government is responsible for taking care of you, because that's socialism, that's communism, that's this democracy, that's the contract that you have with government, that they will give you benefits and privileges in exchange. They'll take care of you in exchange for you working for them and being a surety for the national debt. All right, because that's what all of 1933 was about. The Great Depression was everybody saying that we can't get jobs, we can't take care of ourselves, we need help. So they made a new deal. They made a deal with you. We'll take care of y'all shiftless, lazy Schwarzfers. I don't know what word they use or whatever. You spineless, shiftless, lazy human beings who can't take care of yourself. God made this beautiful planet with dirt everywhere, where you put a seed anywhere in the ground and grow something out of it. You got all the materials you need to build anything you want, and you helpless piece of shit. You can't even take care of yourself. So this is what we're gonna do. All right, we're gonna take care of you people, okay? But y'all gonna work for us. That's what the fuck you're gonna do. Here, we're gonna give you a number. We're gonna take 33% of your wages every week, and you're going to pay this, and we're going to keep borrowing money in your name, in the name of taking care of you. We're going to line our friends' pockets with it by letting them come up with all different type of health care plans and all this kind of stuff, and the money's going to go to them, and it's all going to be in the name of helping you, because y'all are victims. Y'all can't take care of yourself, all right? Forget God. God don't have any place to do in this, and forget your mind, forget the law of attraction, forget all of that. All that don't mean nothing. Forget natural laws, all of that. You can't take care of yourself because somebody else oppressed you, all right? You need us to take care of you. We are your God. Forget that invisible man up in the cloud. Forget all that. We are your God. When you need help, you need to come to us, and we're the people going to take care of you. And one of the contingencies in us taking care of you is you got to make sure you take care of yourself. All right, so right here is another thought that will be a shock to you, but do not misunderstand me or draw conclusions beyond what I'm teaching. It is not a violation of American common law or any of the common laws of any state to possess marijuana or cocaine for your own personal use. See, private use. Until there is a victim, there is no crime. And drugs is called a victimless crime. There are no victims in all these drug cases. They locking up these people. They just came up without the blue. All right. They just came up without the blue. All right. Until there is a victim, there is no crime. Until you have deprived some other person of life, liberty, or property, no crime has been committed. All the statutes and regulations to the contrary notwithstanding. Most Americans these days, because of the Social Security contract and other contracts that confer upon them maritime jurisdiction, are legally wards of the state. If you are a ward of the state instead of a free man at law, then the state has the jurisdiction to compel you to perform according to contract and take good care of yourself and not smoke pot. The state has the duty to take care of the property and chattel that it owns, including subjects and persons under contract for their care. Do you see that? All right? Do you see that? Do you understand what he was just saying right there? Do you understand that this is a matter of contract? That when you took the Social Security number, that you put yourself under a contract, that you put your children under a contract that beholds them to all those statutes, codes, rules, and regulations of Congress, and within their plenary power operating in a territorial jurisdiction. That Social Security card is no different than a membership card to like Sam's Club or something like that. And as a member, all their members, okay, it's just like when you get involved in a trust. If you come into a trust, you have to, anyone, you're going to see this when we do the seminar down in Houston, Texas. And for all you, again, making a announcement that on the 13th and 14th of January, I'm holding a seminar, okay, a 2-day seminar in Houston, Texas, all right? It is $499. However, if you pre-register, it is $399, all right? In Houston, Texas, on the 13th and 14th. All right, so get your tickets. It's going to be a very good event. And what we're going to be discussing is some trust. A lot of trust is going to be discussed, because in learning how to operate a trust is one of the best ways in understanding privacy. Because when you have a private trust, everything that comes into contact with that trust has to be done through a contract, because it's on the private side. All people do everything with contracts. So when the federal government descended to the level of a private citizen when it started using private script, which was Federal Reserve notes, they got involved in contracts with the American people. You begin to understand also how these people came up with this scheme. And understanding the principles of the Constitution, I can see how it was very easy for them to come up with a scheme to circumvent certain things or to find loopholes in certain things. They understood the territorial jurisdiction of Congress, and in order for the Federal Reserve to come in, when it really is the duty of the Treasury Department to be in control of our monetary system, they handed it over to the feds, but Congress made that contract with the feds. And then Congress made a contract with all of you to bring you within their jurisdiction. Now, the Article 3 judges are looking at this, and they're saying, well, hey, look, our duty is to protect private rights, but all of you have elected to leave the private and come into the public. Now, we don't have much jurisdiction over anything. And so Congress is looking at them and saying, well, okay, I'll tell you what, since you are experts in the Constitution, this is what we need you to do for us. We need you to act in an appellate capacity and oversee the adjudications that we have in our Article 1 courts to make determinations of whether or not we did anything unconstitutional. As a matter of fact, we're going to put in procedures in place. They're going to make sure that all our agents and agencies don't violate any constitutional protections. And as a matter of fact, when we make these procedures, we want you to review them for us and make sure that everything is correct. How do I know this? Because I got a United States Code annotated or United States Code out the law library and read the fucking introduction. That's how I know what this is saying. You can take your ass to the law library and read it and see the same thing, and no, you're not going to see it on the internet. You pulling up U.S. codes on the internet, you're just a beginner. You're just a beginner. You shouldn't, if you teaching somebody that, you didn't. You're welcome. A very understandable explanation. Okay, I'm glad you understand that explanation. Okay, so there are principles that you got to know. You got to understand delegation of powers doctrine. You got to understand plenary power doctrine. Plenary power doctrine. You got to understand separation of powers. Okay, these are vitally important to understand. You got to start with the Constitution if you're going to understand status correction, and you're going to have, and if you're going to understand jurisdiction of the courts, you got to understand these things. You can't just go around talking about I'm on my way to Timbuktu, and I'm a Moor, and I'm traveling in the land, and you don't have jurisdiction over me. It's not that simple. Okay, what it is are you using Federal Reserve notes? Are you put your children in public school? Let's look at this real quick. I got something else for you to look at. Let me see if I can find it in this P. If I can find this real quick. It's called the Affidavit of Sovereignty. Let me see if I can just pull it up on the internet. Let me see if this it right here. My computer moving. This little laptop moving kind of slow, y'all. It'll pop up. I'm gonna show it to you. Shoot, let me just pull this thing up. Okay, I want you to understand what a minimum contact is too. All right, here's one right here. They call it the Affidavit of Truth, but it's the same thing. This right here is a very, very good affidavit. Now, what I try to tell people to do is if you study just this affidavit right here, okay, if you study this and pull out all the points in it, you can rewrite it better. Really what I would like to see people do is like how people do with open source programs, like Kodi is an open source program. What that means is you have all the brightest minds on the planet that are contributing to that particular software to make it better. All right, somebody reads the code and somebody else will come along and improve upon the code. Well, you could do the same thing with a lot of these documents. You can improve upon the code once you get an understanding of what it is that you're attempting to do. This document, a lot of people didn't like it because it said Affidavit of Sovereignty when they started telling people that they were sovereign citizens, all right? And, which was ridiculous. It's just some made up word. This is the communists made up that word. You understand the liberals and the communists made up that word because they want to destroy any type of thoughts in your head that you are a sovereign individual. They want to destroy that in your mind. That is the biggest threat to communism, and everything that they're attempting to do is the people waking up, understanding that they are sovereign, okay, that they are free, that you are free and independent people, all right, that in the United States of America, which is one of the greatest countries on planet Earth, they conducted an experiment here that they don't want to see exist anywhere else. All right, and that is that we have a government by the people and for the people. It's not a monarchy. It's not an oligarchy. It's not any of those things. All right, it's not a patriarchy. It's not a matriarchy. I get so sick of those two terms as well. They are using those words as well as weapons. All right, but right here you see, be it known to all courts, governments, and other parties that I, Yusef, am a natural-born sovereign without subjects. I'm neither subject to any entity anywhere, nor is any entity subject to me. I am neither dominant. I neither dominate anyone, nor am I dominated. That right there is just another way of saying I'm private. That's what happens in the private. In the private, you know, you can do what you want to do as long as you don't do anything against anybody else. That's what private means, the right to be left alone. You got a right to be left alone. Nobody can mess with you. But you can't, it just doesn't mean by default, nobody can mess with you. I can drive through this school zone at 100 miles an hour. It doesn't mean don't mess with me. I can go inside this bank and rob this bank and nobody can touch me. It don't mean that. Stop being stupid. Why are y'all selling this? This might make it hard for me to teach. Oh, Yusef ain't teaching the right thing. He ain't teaching true status correction. No, fool. You the one not teaching true status correction. You the one getting people locked up, teaching them this foolishness that don't have no basis in reality or law or anything like that. Somebody had to come along and stop this foolishness. This has gotten out of hand. This foolishness being taught out here right now. You think you can get anything for free that you want to, or you can do anything that you want. And then it just helps them in their efforts say, oh, y'all sovereign citizens. Y'all think y'all ain't under no law. Y'all have to follow no law. That's what they're teaching them. Somebody said, do you agree with the address? Well, let's look at this real quick. We don't know. Let me tell you something. Endless wars. You don't know what the minimum contacts are. You don't even know if the minimum contacts is having a P.O. box, an address with a zip code. You don't know if it's putting your children in school. You don't know if it's having registering your car. You don't know if it's having your children in public school. You don't know if it's having a bank account. You don't know if it's using Federal Reserve notes. You don't know. But what we do know is this. Every time all those things are considered benefits and privileges. So if you're using a benefit and a privilege, having an address, yes, it constitutes a minimum contact. If it's a benefit and a privilege. So right here, my authority for this statement is the same as it is for all free sovereigns everywhere. The age-old, timeless, and universal respect for the intrinsic rights, property, freedoms, and responsibilities of the sovereign individual. I'm not a person with such term as defined in statutes of the United States or statutes of the several states when such definition includes artificial entities. I refuse to be treated as a federally or state-created entity which is only capable of exercising certain rights, privileges, or immunities as specifically granted by federal or state governments. I voluntarily choose to comply with the man-made laws which serve to bring harmony to society, but no such laws nor their enforcers have any authority over me. I'm not in any jurisdiction, for I'm not of subject status. You're just saying I'm private. That's all he's saying right here. I'm private. Because the word sovereign is not in the Constitution. It's only talking about private and public. Use terms that they can't call you crazy on. Stop using these words that they can come up and start making videos with you about. Use words that they will be afraid to make a video of you about. Start using language that if you use this language, oh no, we can't put him on video. We can't be educating people about that shit. Stay away from him. I don't put him on. Matter of fact, we need to find something on his channel that we can give him a strike about and get his ass off the internet. I mean, you should see the ridiculous strikes I get. If I call a woman, I just got a strike on Facebook, and what I said was, all these women, they come on and they call me, y'all, you got a little dick, you ain't got no woman, they you know how they do. Their whole tactic is to try to talk about you like children. They don't use any intelligence or anything like that. Just children. I just watch them and everything. Oh, you look at your status on your Facebook. That's why you're single. And, you got a small dick. I bet you my dick is bigger than yours. And, they just say all this kind of, and it always be white women. You know, when our women are just talking, it's okay, but they'll have all these white women who have co-opted the civil rights, and this feminist movement, because it's the one, and our women have bought in onto it. And all you women who y'all like to say, oh, well, you following the occupier. What does it say? You know, this is the colonizer. If you're a feminist, you follow colonizer ideals. What are you talking about? Who you think created that? But you got to go and watch. You got to go and watch and see what these people are saying. All right. So when they come in, they want to come in. They want to shame you into, and they'll come in. So what I did was I started posting a lot of biblical scriptures, because what you do when you do with that, you force them to show that they're atheist. You got to see they will start disrespecting your religion. All right, this is a Luciferian plot, and you got to understand this. You got to understand who you are battling against. Like it says in the 48 Laws of Power, know with whom you deal. You're dealing with the whole communist movement was atheist. These people are atheist. You have to be. They are against nature. You just look at what they say. They are challenging nature. Oh, ain't no two genders. There's 72 of them. 72 is a mystical number, by the way. Oh, it's okay for same-sex marriages. Oh, it's okay. Oh, everything is against. Oh, yeah, take this vaccination. I'm proud. You go on their Facebook, you're going to see something. You're going to see, number one, they feminists. Number two, they vaccinated. You got to see who the people who are pushing the vaccination. You got to look and see. It is a select group of people. A lot of the people who took the vaccination, a lot of them just have the mindset of sheep and cattle. I'm not going to say all of you do if you took it, but you didn't do a thorough investigation. How many of you who took that vaccination, if you be honest with yourself, you read that the contract that you had to sign before taking that vaccination that told you this was experimental in nature, that if anything happens to you, that they are held harmless against any adverse results of this vaccination? And you just willingly went along and just put this in your body. And you really think, I want you to stop and think about this. You think that they can make something in a lab that can cure you? You really believe that? Well, show me anything on television that they selling you right now that don't have 50 million side effects to it. The natural remedies are in, first of all, drink a lot of water and eat food, eat real food. Stop eating processed food that is not food. Not like the Egyptians said, 95% of all illness comes from food. So let's look at this real quick. Somebody said HIV, Dr. Boris Strecker, who wrote the Strecker Memorandum. Hold on, let me digress for a minute. How many of y'all know this? How many of y'all watch this video right here? This guy right here was the world's foremost authority on AIDS. And when he came not long after he came out with this, he ended up dead. How many of y'all watched that? The Strecker Memorandum. And this man, he is incredibly intelligent. And he's sitting there explaining to you how AIDS came from a cow. This mad cow disease and AIDS is kind of tied in together. How he broke it down in the laboratory and showed you how they made it. Ended up dead not long after. Like Dr. Sebi, all of them. What happened to all these health? Who is this? You see that? Y'all remember this? 50 holistic doctors have mysteriously died in the last year. But what's being done about it? They start killing off all y'all brain trusts before they brought out this pandemic. Then wasn't that mysterious? How Dr. Sebi and a lot of people ended up dead first, and then they made sure that y'all don't have nobody of any authority that you could trust, that you could turn to. Oh. I like this right here. They put in something from Hale versus Hinkle. The individual may stand upon his constitutional rights as a citizen. He's entitled to carry on his private business in his own way. His power to contract is unlimited. It can be the power to contract is a two-edged sword. It can be for you or against you if you don't know how to contract. His power to contract is unlimited. He owes no such duty to submit his books and papers for examination to the state, since he receives nothing therefrom beyond the protection of his life and liberty. Now, that is a very key point. The only duty of your government is to protect your life, liberty, and property. That's it. They got into, after 1933, they got into government services. You can read the congressional record of 1933 and see the debate on the House floor where they're talking about this, where they made the statement, how are we going to take care of the American people when the American people take care of us? We pay their salaries. How are we going to take care of it? They pay our salaries. How are we going to take care of them? And that's when they took away the gold. They took away gold was y'all's right to privacy. That was the cornerstone of privacy, to be able to operate in commerce privately and with using money of exchange, money that's not taxed, money that doesn't involve the government, money that's not overseen or anything. That's the first thing they took away from you, is your ability to conduct commerce privately. Do you understand that? Do you understand what I'm saying right here with that? Do you understand? I'm telling you that that was the biggest play they made, is getting rid of the gold and silver. It's all about public and private. We go back over here to this. His rights are such as exercised by the law of the land, long antecedent to the organization of the state, and can only be taken from him by due process of law and in accordance with the Constitution. Among his rights are refusal to incriminate himself and the immunity of himself. And now you have a duty to report a crime. You got a duty, but you don't have to, incriminate yourself. He owes nothing to the public so long as he does not trespass on their rights. Remember when we was reading administrative law, it's talking about the public rights doctrine? All right, this is what I keep telling people who walking around thinking, oh, well, I'm this sovereign, I'm this Moor, or I'm this private person, and I can just do anything I want to do. No, you can't do anything you want to do. What the mistake that has happened in this country is you allow government to take over too much stuff. Now it's almost impossible to be private because they got their tentacles on everything. This is what they were talking about, the dangers of big government. I didn't understand it when I was young. I understand it now. I didn't understand it when I was young. It goes on, it says, thus be it known to all that I reserve my natural common law right not to be compelled to perform on any contract that I did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. What is that under the UCC? That's why you sign your name UCC 1-308. That's the reason right there. Okay, if you didn't understand why I put in UCC 1-308, it is so you reserve your natural common law right not to be compelled to perform under any contract that you did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. It destroys the presumption that you understand. Okay, I'm not signing this traffic ticket. I'm not understanding exactly everything that is attached with my signature when you give me this ticket. I'm not waiving any rights. They operate under presumption, assumption, and color of law. So it goes on. And furthermore, I do not accept the liability associated with the compelled and pretended benefit of any hidden or unrevealed contract or commercial agreement. As such, the hidden or unrevealed contracts that supposedly create obligations to perform for persons of subject status are inapplicable to me and are null and void. If I participated in any of the supposed benefits associated with these hidden contracts, I've done so under duress for lack of any other practical alternative. And that's true. There's no other practical alternatives. They made it where you don't have any alternative but to contract with them and utilize the benefits and privileges if you want to be a part of society. I may have received such benefits, but I have not accepted them in a manner that binds me to anything. It goes on. Any such participation does not constitute acceptance in contract law because of the absence of full disclosure of any valid offer and voluntary consent without misrepresentation or coercion under contract law. Without a valid voluntary offer and acceptance knowingly entered into by both parties, there is no meeting of the minds and therefore no valid contract. Any supposed contract is therefore void ab initio. From my age of consent to the date affixed below, I have never signed a contract knowingly, willingly, intelligently, and voluntarily whereby I have waived any of my natural common law rights, and as such, take notice that I revoke, cancel, and make void ab initio my signature on any and all contracts, agreements, forms, or any instrument which may be construed in any way to give any agency or department of any federal or state government authority, venue, or jurisdiction over me. This positioning is in accordance with the U.S. Supreme Court decision of Brady versus U.S. All right. Waivers of constitutional rights not only must be voluntary, they must be knowingly intelligent acts done with sufficient awareness of the relevant circumstances and consequences. Beautiful. This person right here, he actually added on to the original affidavit. These are some nice things. Typical examples of such compelled and pretended benefits are the use of Federal Reserve notes to discharge my debts. I've used these only because in America, there's no widely recognized currency. The use of a bank account, okay? With my signature on the bank signature card. If there is any hidden contract behind the bank signature card, my signature thereon gives no validity to it. The signature is only for verification of identity. I can be obligated to fulfill no hidden or unrevealed contract whatsoever due to the absence of full disclosure and voluntary consent. Likewise, my use of the bank account thereof is due to the absence of a bank not associated with the Federal Reserve System. In general, people have been prevented from issuing their own currencies, and such prevention is in violation of the United States Constitution. And you should be able to issue your own currency. Everybody in America should be able to issue their own promissory note. That's what the colonists were doing. That's what the Rothschilds got mad at, and they started the war with the United States of America because the colonists were using their own script. What script were they using? Script. They're using their own script. They're using their own script. And Rothschild said, no, we want them using our script. It's nothing for you to give a promise to pay to somebody else. If I went down to George's corner store and I didn't have any money, but George has known me all his life. He's known me since I was a little boy. And I come into the store all the time, but on this weekend, I don't have any money to pay. I said, George, I can't pay you in gold and silver today, but can I give you this promissory note and next week I'll pay you? He said, okay. He negotiated. It's a negotiable instrument. He knows me as a person who's upstanding and has good character, and I accepted it. That's issuing our own currency. That's what we did. They copied shit from us. Stop letting these people make you believe that promissory notes and negotiable instruments is something that only banks deal with in the government. That is bullshit, okay? They stole the shit from you. Anybody can write a promissory note or a bill of exchange. What you cannot do is put things on your instruments that belong to the government, like ABA routing numbers and things of that nature. That's the first thing they're going to look for when they want to charge you, give you a public charge. If you have something from the public on your negotiable instrument. Now, does everybody understand that? And somebody in there talking about executive orders. Do you know what an executive order is? People, they talk about executive orders ain't even for you. Executive orders are for the administrative agencies. They marching orders from the president. The president is the general. He oversees the military. He gives orders to his troops. Executive orders are just orders to the troops. That's why it's called an executive from the executive branch, orders to the agencies. Y'all kill me with that stuff, man. Y'all kill me with this. He issued an executive order, 13-101. You just came in the room. You came into the hospital. I don't know, you got to be careful what you sign in hospitals, too. He said, I signed UCC 1-3A during a car buying process, and the salesman took the paper to his superiors and returned it and said, we can't move forward if I sign like this. Then fees I questioned disappeared. I'm trying to tell you. Man, let me tell you, every time, man, let me tell you, I buy cars from Dodge. I got Hellcats and stuff like that. They know me. They don't even fuck with me with the contract. When I come in there now, and they say that, and the finance manager, he comes in, he started talking about signing paperwork. I said, man, let me get that paperwork. I go out into the sitting area. I cross out all kind of stuff. They got all kind of shit in that contract. Don't need to be there. I said, what is this, man? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And I cross it out, then initial it. You can do that once they see that you got excellent credit and that you a man of character. They ain't gonna mess with you too much. But anyway. So we got the use of bank accounts. Let's go through all of them. The use of the social security number. All right. The use of the driver's license. Past tax returns filed. Your birth certificate. Your marriage license. Children in public school. Declaration of citizenship. Those are all what are called minimum contacts. Minimum contacts. And down here, you can even see that they talk about the jurisdiction of the government right here. Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. Congress shall have the power to dispose and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory of the property belonging to the United States. And nothing in this Constitution shall be construed as a prejudice any claims of the United States or any other particular state. So right there, you see it. And down here, he took out some stuff. He took out a lot. He took out the one part with article. I don't know why he took that out. You're doing Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, where it talks about that. But this is, I just pulled this up on the internet, but you can find the Affidavit of Sovereignty, the original one, okay? And then you can take it and use that. I've used it in court before. It was the only document that the prosecutor got nervous about because I felt like I had to put something on the record that would address minimum contacts. Because if you are going to challenge jurisdiction, then you have to understand minimum contacts. What is it that they are presuming that is granting their jurisdiction? It has to be a minimum contact. A minimum contact is in some kind of way, you accepted a benefit or a privilege, or you're utilizing some sort of benefit or privilege that belongs to them, whether it be a driver's license, social security card, privileges, just whatever, bank accounts, all of that is within their purview, okay? And you cannot take advantage of a benefit and a privilege and then deny the corresponding liability that is associated with it. The Supreme Court of the United States of America is not going to let you do that. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. Is that why when you do an administrative process, let me put this over here and put this over here. I can see what's going on. Is that why when you do an administrative process, A for V, and have evidence on the court debt collector not answering, they're in dishonor and can ask for money damages for wasting time and energy? I mean, that's a very good thing, but you got to understand that, when you say all that, they don't answer, you got to know how to enforce it. You got to know how to make a record. and take it through. You got to exhaust all your administrative remedies before you can start trying to collect damages and things of that nature. Understand what the exhaustion of your administrative remedies are. You can't sue anybody for an injury until you win. You can't sue somebody. A lot of people want to sue somebody. Oh, they didn't do this in court, but did you win? Did you win? If you didn't win, you can't sue anyone. To charge the straw man and living man in court, you challenge jurisdiction because they are operating unconstitutionally and can take it to equity court to get, no, they're not operating unconstitutionally. See, that's that stuff right there, like Mando M. I want y'all to read what he's talking about. See, that's that regurgitated sovereign citizen ideology that lacks any understanding of law, of all the things that we're talking about. Anytime you see somebody, the government does everything right. I remember I saw somebody say the government does everything right. You be wise when you study this material to understand that the government does everything right. They do everything within the purview of their power. Now, are they deceptive? Do they use coercive tactics and things of that nature? Yes, they use those things. But they operate within the ambit of their delegated authority, and anything within their courts, banks, all that shit you're talking about, Federal Reserve notes, y'all need to stop that. Just you thinking like that, you'll never have any success. Coming in and talking about they operating unconstitutionally. Y'all need to just kill that word unconstitutionally. That when you say that right there, you sound like a sovereign citizen. I can understand why they would call you a sovereign citizen, because you haven't demonstrated the requisite study of this particular subject. You haven't studied the principles involving the Constitution. You should understand, all right, so if you don't understand this right here, these 7 principles of the Constitution, all right, if you don't understand that, why are you talking about something's unconstitutional? If you understand separation of powers, republicanism, popular sovereignty, federalism, checks and balances, all right, individual rights. I mean, if you don't understand these things, how are you going to say that they operating unconstitutionally? That's my question to you. How are you going to say that if you don't understand the principles of the Constitution? I see very few people that understand separation of powers. That's one of the easiest ones to understand. That comes from, they borrowed that from France, all right, when they were drafting the Constitution, that principle, separation of powers. That was so we would not have a dictatorship in the United States of America. No one branch is over the other. Y'all tend to think that the president is the strongest person in the country. He's not. That right there is a deflection. Congress is the most powerful branch of government, not the executive. It's the legislative. And people, they think these things. Now, seminar is on the 13th and 14th. If you click on the link in the description, okay, it's going to be at a hotel in, we already got the hotel. Okay, it's going to be in Houston, Texas in January on the 13th and 14th. We're putting together a very nice event. I'm putting together a lot of things, make it very organized. It's going to be a very nice event. Yes, if this one goes well, I will be doing another one. Well, this one will go well. Okay. An officer acting in good faith may use deception, trickery, or artifice to detect crime. Yep, they sure can. That's true. That lying is not against the law. It is perjury. You know, when you're under oath. I tried and challenged the jurisdiction and it didn't work. I didn't have enough information and I may lose my property. Well, that's the thing about it. How you going to challenge jurisdiction? If you understood these things that I'm talking about, you may be hesitant to challenge jurisdiction if you understand that you've established a lot of minimum contacts, and then you may start looking for an alternative way to achieve your goal. This is the reason why the secure party process was so popular, because it doesn't challenge jurisdiction. It understands the fact that everything in their jurisdiction is about money, and there isn't any money. Everything is credit. okay? So you should be able to give them a negotiable instrument and set off the debt. That's why the secure party process was created the way that it was, because it didn't get into this challenging jurisdiction and right to travel and all this other shit that you have people talking about. It stands solely on discharging debt with an understanding that everything that they deal with is about money. Even when you catch a criminal crime, it is Admiralty, and Admiralty is dealing about bonds. They creating a bond. It's like debtor's prison. They're creating bonds and funding municipalities based off of crimes and traffic tickets and things of that nature. This is when people were going to Fidelity Mutual website and putting in their case number and finding out where their case had been put, what fund their case was being traded in. I got a court date coming on some bullshit. It happens. How do we get a financial statement from the comptroller? I don't know. Contact the comptroller and ask them. And I don't know what you mean by financial statement. That's a very vague. Why do you need a financial statement from the comptroller? I don't need anything from them. I just need them to do what I tell them to do. I don't need nothing from them. They're in the public. That's their jurisdiction. I form a contract with them, and then I give them directives. And if they agree to follow, then the reason that they agree to follow the contract is because they don't have any money. You give them a $2 trillion bond, you don't think it's worth anything, but they understand it's worth something. Exactly. I'm not secure yet. What instruments do I use? Bill of exchange. Everything revolves around the use of a bill of exchange. At least that's what I teach. Yeah, some other people use promissory notes and things of that nature, but I don't think, when you use a secure party process, it uses strictly a bill of exchange, a three-party instrument, because you need something to draw off of. Is a live claim necessary to an administrative process? I remember, you got to understand, I've been doing this a long time. I remember when they came out with that bullshit, that live claim, you know. That's just like, why don't you just put in an affidavit of non-corporate existence? That's the same shit. It's necessary if you're trying to say that you're not a corporate entity, only in that capacity, in court. But they just that's just some shit somebody made up, man. Somebody made that up. Why are you asking me if something's necessary and a motherfucker made it up? Somebody made it up, okay? Not to say it's not effective, but they made it up. Why don't you make up your own? Read the shit. Affidavit of life claim. Okay, I like that, but I don't like that name. I think I'm gonna call this Affidavit of the Gods. Okay, Affidavit of the Elohims. All right, and I'm gonna put in here some verbiage that's gonna let these stank motherfuckers know that I'm not a corporate created entity, that I'm a real living soul created in the image of the creator of the boundless universe with the power to annihilate their asses with just a thought. You know what I'm saying? Somebody made it up, man. I know there's some people on here who can write well. Read the shit, understand what I'm saying, make up your own. All this stuff we're using somebody made up. Everybody made up their own stuff because they understood the principles. Now, some of these people making up some of these documents are extremely intelligent, but that is besides the point. You can make up one. Israel said to get a financial statement from the county comptroller division off. You can't. I mean, you can. What he was talking about there, y'all talking about that video I just posted. He got all that from Gene Keating's It's All a Tax. He got all that information from Gene Keating. Gene Keating came out with a video called It's All a Tax. They took it down. He was able to see it. Me and other guys were able to get it, but he obviously might have had a copy of it and studied it. But it's all about taxes and about bonds. The reason it's all about bonds is because it's all Admiralty. Admiralty has everything to do with bonds. So they have to have a bond, and in old school, they call it a caution. Both sides have to put in a bond. What it is there's a presumption that they don't need a bond is because all public officials are bonded. They have a blanket bond on file, but that's a presumption. You have to rebut that presumption by going in court and say, Your Honor, I request that the Honorable Judge direct the prosecutor to put his bond into evidence file to show this case is bonded on this side. Everything is about bonds. I tell you all the time about a document called Creditors and Their Bonds. Everything in their system is about bonds. It's about set off of debt. It's about liability and about avoiding liability. That's everything that they do is to avoid liability. All right. Sorry about that. I had a little blurb. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. Yusef, do you know a way we can get around using these digital IDs? They're trying to, yeah, go in private. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. Yusef, do you know a way we can get around using this? Too Much Game was looking up UCC. This is how I found this channel. Great. You right, cowboy. You on your own are fighting an army of crooks. Why is they messing with the live? Okay. Let's see. What happened to all the viewers? Now to get to what I was talking about the New World Order. Okay. Wait a minute, let me see this. I tried signing UCC 1-308 when I opened up a bank account, and the lady said no because I'm failing to take responsibility. So she said I couldn't sign like that. And you got to understand in situations you're not supposed to use that stuff. You got to understand. UCC 1-308 is used when you're being compelled to do something. I cannot be forced to do something. You ain't forced to open a bank account. All right, y'all trying to use this stuff in situations where it's not, it's not meant for that situation. This is crazy. All right. All right. Look like it's showing. Let's look where we at. Salams, what money? It did it twice, man, hopefully. See, like, look at this question right here. Look at this question right here. It says, Yusef, can I still perform real estate transactions like wholesaling or house flipping while being private and not have to pay taxes? Right there, those type of questions right there, you got to look at them people and go on his profile and look at them. Because you see, I ain't never said that you could sell real estate and not pay taxes. I've never said that, not once. That's how those liberals, they ask questions like that right there. They try to like twist things and everything, like what are you talking about not paying taxes? You got tax avoidance and tax evasion. You got tax mitigation strategies you can use in dealing with real estate, like 1031, exchanges and things of that nature. All right, but there's still going to be a tax liability associated with it, especially if you're using Federal Reserve notes and operating within their system. So you're never going to see me on here talking about you don't have to pay taxes. So if you're an individual who's on this channel who are ignorant, because a lot of y'all are very ignorant individuals. And you're not very intelligent also, because the stuff that y'all use, the tactics that y'all use, they're just not very smart. They're just not very smart tactics at all. I can't even understand why people still fall for them. It's incredible to me. For y'all to fall for some of the stuff that these people do, they really think you stupid. They do be thinking we stupid. How did the video just black out? Anyone else? Good now. Got to pay those taxes. Okay. You cannot just, you got to look at, like when somebody posts that, always go to their, like if you're on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and somebody makes a crazy statement, go to click on their profile picture. Click on their and go to their profile and see if you can find out any information about them. 9 times out of 10, you won't be able to find out any information about them. Or their profile is going to look just similar to a lot of other people's profiles who ask those same type of questions. Start paying attention. What are your thoughts on the digital currency they are pushing? Don't matter. I don't care about currency. I care about assets. If you had your mind in the right place and was concerned about assets, you wouldn't care about the currency. The people concerned about the currency are the slaves. Only slaves care about currency. I don't give a fuck about currency. I care about assets. Assets is what matters, not currency. I don't give a fuck about the currency. You know why? Because if I own real estate, guess what? You got to pay rent in Bitcoin. You got to pay rent, and if they use a Miros, you got to pay rent in Federal Reserve notes. If we switch to motherfucking marbles or go back to gold and silver, you're going to pay rent in one of those currencies. So the people who are wealthy and in power, they don't give a fuck about what currency is going to be utilized. They don't give a fuck about the interest. They don't give a fuck about none of that. That's affecting you. That's not affecting the other people on the other side of the fence because they think a certain way. I don't give a damn about y'all are involved in crypto. Crypto is speculation. That's gambling. I'm not involved in speculation or gambling. That's just me. That's my personal preference. I can't say that people don't get rich doing crypto, but that's speculation. You are depending on selling something to somebody else buying into something so you can make money. It's like a Ponzi scheme. A lot of stuff is really, tell you the truth, is like Ponzi schemes, because even with real estate, you're dependent on somebody else. But you're involved in a market that can be manipulated. I'm sorry. I just think real estate that's what everybody makes their millions in. Real estate has made more billionaires than anything. It's real estate. I filed with Sovereign Solutions and became stuck, don't know how to move. Yeah, a lot of people, y'all file paperwork, don't know how to use it. Okay, it says, it's like the 3rd time you've been cut off already. What's your thoughts on Moorish Americans? I recently read The Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and opened my eyes a bit. I mean, if you understand, okay, the first thing I would say on the Moors, because they talking about we not black, I would tell you to go get a, get you a good dictionary, an Oxford Unabridged dictionary, and start studying the word Moor. Start studying that word. Start right there. I don't have any problem with the Moors. They have a rudimentary understanding of status, in my opinion. But their basis for it, like we were here in the land first and all that, and black is the status and all that. They don't have anything to do with anything. That's why they keep talking about your political status. They're concerned with a political status. They're not concerned with a private status. They want your status vis-a-vis to the government, whereas we over here teaching you to be private. It's always been private. In the private, it don't matter what you are. Everything in the public operates through corporations anyway. Get you a fucking corporation. That's what you're supposed to be playing the commerce game with, an entity. They give you a default entity. Everybody needs to have a token to get on the commerce board game. So they give you a default token called an individual. It has all the liability. You can call it whatever you want, white, black, green, that shit don't matter. Because in the system, you're not a name or nationality, you a number. You a number in their system. They don't give a fuck about your nationality. Anybody been to federal prison knows that. Anybody been to federal prison knows they don't care about your nationality. They don't care about that. It doesn't have any impact. When you ask me what I care about the Moors, I don't think about them any kind of way. I'm just telling you what makes sense as far as dealing with status correction, as they like to say, That has no type of impact in commerce. The only thing that makes an impact is liability. Who has the liability? The entity that has the liability. And they've given you different entities. They've given you an individual, an association, a partnership, a company, a corporation, an estate, and a trust. Those are the 7 entities you play the game with. This is a board game, okay? There's only 7 tokens, all right? You call yourself a Moor or you're an individual. You call yourself a Native American or you're individual, meaning that do you have an EIN number? When you're an individual, they call the EIN number a social security number. It's a 9-digit number. Then you get an EIN number for the other corporations. What, you got a trust, you got an estate, a partnership. All the commerce flows through those entities. That's all. Start looking at the game for what it is. All right, y'all. My stream is going bad. So what I'm going to do, I'm traveling. So, I'm not in my studio. I should be back in my studio in a day or two because I'm tired of this. But anyway, going to have class tonight on SBC University. Let's see. Where is this private? What's going on with my stream, man? All right. I'm going to get off in a few minutes because they keep messing with my stream. Somebody asked me about putting a private trust with a land patent. It's private, man, to make it tax exempt. Anything private is tax exempt. Y'all be like, you got to have a low-deal title to the property. It can't be no minimum contacts attached to it. A trust is just a person. Put in a trust, you're not saying anything. A trust is an entity. It's just an entity. A private trust is what it is. A private trust means that it's foreign. But anything you put in a private trust and it don't have any type of minimum contact associated with the government is going to be tax exempt. Anything private is tax exempt because there isn't any taxes in the private. Taxes is in the public. CPA, certified public accountant, they do the accounting in the public. Ain't no accountants in the private. Ain't no certified private accountant. Let's see, we can hear you. Appreciate it. All right, y'all, I'm gonna get off now. It's 8 o'clock. I want to just kick a little bit. I want to tell y'all about our seminar that we are having in Houston, Texas. It is going to be on the 13th and 14th of January of next year. So you got plenty of time to prepare for it. We're going to be going over a lot of these things. I'm kind of prepping y'all for that seminar, making you understand the difference between public and private. Just keep studying public and private so when you get into the seminar, you'll understand what's being talked about. So we won't ask crazy questions like, do I have to pay taxes? All right, you're asking these tax questions. Jesus Christ, he gave the best illustration. When they asked him, do we have to pay taxes? He said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and unto the Lord what is the Lord's. He understood public and private even back then. That was 2,000 years ago. So if Jesus Christ understood the question, why can't you? He understood it 2,000 years ago. All right. Anyway, I want to thank everybody. Play this video back over. Make sure that you get some understanding of public and private. And I'll see y'all on the next stream. Peace to the gods. I'm out.